The Green Bay Packer storied run here in the tail end of the season that brought them back to this moment comes up just short, 8-9 on the season. Aaron Rodgers in this game, not spectacular. 17-27, 205, a touchdown and an interception, not enough. As Detroit, 9-8, above 500, and feeling themselves. The win to end the season. It doesn't get them into the playoffs. The chips that did not fall their way here on Sunday. Again, instead, it will be Seattle in the 7th seed, Green Bay and Detroit, both ending their season here at Lambeau Field. All right, let's break it down with two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS NFL analyst Ryan Wilson. Guys, Green Bay looked a whole lot more like the team that sat at 3 and whatever early on in the season that looked like they were going to stay down. They got back up. They surged to this moment, but they come up short again. Where'd you see the inefficiencies on Sunday, B-Mac?
Just a lack of execution on the offensive side. Remember, we talked about at the halftime point, Green Bay dominated this ball game in the first half, but only had a 3-point lead into half. And we all felt like eventually Detroit, led by Jared Goff, would get a rhythm going to find a way to win this ball game. And all of those things came to reality in the second half. We just never saw the offense clicking for the Green Bay Packers. And I think that was a big issue. You talk about third down woes. They continued in the second half. Then the running game for Detroit came to be productive. They had no answer for that. And a few big plays from Jared Goff. And voila, magic. Magic in Lambeau Field. Dan Campbell, you have to tip your hat to Dan Campbell and his staff. A dramatic change in regards to production. And coming up with a huge win tonight. And don't forget, they swept the Green Bay Packers. They beat them the first time, beat them again tonight's ball game. So adding misery to company was something they wanted to do. And huge, nice, productive season for the Detroit Lions. Listen, I'm sorry. I selfishly wanted to see the Lions get into the playoffs because the way they've been playing football, I think they would have made things a lot interesting.
B-Mac, don't apologize because I'm right there with you. And this is why you want to see a team like Detroit in the playoffs. The way that they played the second half of that season, the way they played tonight, the way that Dan Campbell does not care about rules, about whatever the analytics might say. He goes with what gives his team the best chance to make a play. And it felt like he called and dialed up every single thing correctly tonight. You talked about how Jared Goff turned it on, and we talked about it at halftime. Jared Goff was going to play better than he did in the first half. He did that. I said whoever minimized the miscues in the second half is going to have the best chance to win. In addition to Jared Goff, you have things like Quay Walker pushing the trainer, and he gets kicked out of the game. They needed him in the middle of that defense. And then we saw that last graphic there. Kirby Joseph, the rookie out of Illinois, 3 interceptions against Aaron Rodgers. First time that's ever happened in one regular season. Had one earlier that was taken away because of a defensive penalty. And he was a big part of what they did on the back half. And B-Mac, you mentioned that Week 9 game where the Lions beat the Packers the first time around. The Lions went into that game 1-6. They finished 9-8. I'm telling you right now, we'll spend all offseason talking about it. Watch out for the Detroit Lions because they are not messing around. A huge win for them. This is their Super Bowl. This is one of the biggest wins they've had since they went last minute to the playoffs. And it's a great way to go into the offseason. And if you're Green Bay, Joe, a ton of questions, and it starts with the quarterback.
Yeah, and we will get to some of those questions, but I do want to give some flowers here to Detroit first because you outlined it, 8-2 in their last 10 games of the season. I'm sure the Aiden Hutchinson, Jared Goff jersey sales will spike in the Pacific Northwest here in the not-too-distant future, guys. What is Dan Campbell building in Detroit, B-Mac? Because this was a year with little to no expectation, and sometimes it's easy to win that way. Now you're going to be playing in a division next year that many will say will be for the taking, depending on how the Vikings season ends, what the Bears do at number 1, if number 12 is the quarterback in Green Bay. What can Detroit accomplish off of this sort of season?
Oh, my goodness. This is a momentum, a confidence booster. Confidence booster for them. And you talk about what type of team he's building. I think this team is already laid. The foundation is there. This is a team that does not mind going out in the alley and fighting you for 4 quarters. You talk about biting kneecaps. They will bite whatever it is they need to bite for them to find a way to have more points than you on the scoreboard. And most importantly, the players, they're believing in their coaches. You can tell when the coaches tell these guys to do X, Y, and Z, they go out and do it, and they play with tremendous energy. And Jared Goff, let's look at some of the production and development we've seen from Jared Goff this year in Detroit. A slow start, but when he found his stride, he did not look back. Ryan talked about the resources this team has moving forward. They have 2 first-rounders. Remember, their first-rounder from a year ago was pretty much injured throughout the entirety of this season. Surfaced towards the back end. Jameson Williams, one of the fastest guys in the league, he will pretty much be a rookie next year as well. So the future is extremely bright for this ball club. And when you talk about the black and blue division, that fits their type of football. And you better believe, not knowing what will happen with Green Bay moving forward, like you talked about Minnesota and, of course, the Chicago Bears, they should have a bright future as well. But Detroit, they're going to be the talk of the town next year in regards to the NFC North play, in my opinion.
Let's put some of that capital to work with a man who's going to be asked to do so between now and late April, Ryan Wilson. What do you see the Lions attending to first and foremost here in the offseason?
Well, as BMAC noted, they're going to have a sort of a free first-round pick in Jameson Williams, who they took last spring, and he came back from that ACL injury, and we saw contributions over the second half of the season and saw one on Sunday night before that penalty took away that touchdown. But in terms of looking ahead, the good news is the quarterback position appears to be set. That's always the biggest question. The offensive line is going to end up being, if not already, one of the best units in the NFL to go along with that running game. That's fantastic news. They need to get better on defense. So if you have those 2 first-round picks, they could get an edge rusher with that number 6 pick as we currently sit here, virtue of the pick from the Rams for the Matthew Stafford trade. You get someone like a Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. You get a Miles Murphy out of Clemson to bolster the edge game opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And then when you circle back with your original first-round pick, you get someone like a Christian Gonzalez, a big cornerback who reminds me a lot of Kerry Elam, who was drafted by the Bills this past spring. And now you have your secondary bolster. So they're moving in the right direction. We just talked about Kirby Joseph balling out. Jeffrey Kudas finally playing like a first-round pick. He didn't play tonight because of injury. But the pieces are coming together. And as BMAC noted, suddenly it feels like this division might go through Detroit. So that's a fun conversation to have, and it certainly helps that you have those 2 first-round picks, and your team is already stocked on one side of the ball as you move towards the offseason.
Before we pivot to the Green Bay side of the conversation, got to tip our caps to Jamal Williams. What was an amazing season. Breaks Barry Sanders' single-season touchdown record for the Detroit Lions. Heady space, and does it here against a team that discarded him in the past. An amazing storyline comes to fruition in Week 18. The storylines will continue in Green Bay until we get some answers, and if last offseason is any indication, it's going to be a while. Number 12's future in doubt, and some interesting things happening here down the stretch. Jameson Williams asked Rodgers for his jersey after the game, and he was seen saying something to the effect of, I got to hold on to this one. You see him then put the arm around Randall Cobb walking off the field. Some telltale signs that maybe this could be the end, B-Mac. What do you feel like Aaron Rodgers' future is in this league, in Green Bay more specifically?
I got 2 words for the NFL world. We coming. We coming. We're no longer going to be the laughingstock of the NFL. We're no longer going to be the doormats to any NFL team anymore, because we coming. Once we get past this draft this season and draft the missing pieces to the puzzle and put that icing on the cake, I just want to let the NFL world know that we coming. This is the growth and this is the development that we as fans been wanting to see out of the Detroit Lions for a very, very long time. I'm glad that we don't have to keep playing this carousel of coaching. Shout out to Dan Campbell for turning things around with the organization. Shout out to Brad Holmes for being able to get some of the later round talent in here and develop guys. Shout out to the organization of the Detroit Lions for staying poised when the Lions were 1-6. The Lions completely turned their season around and was 1 game away from getting into the postseason. If they had beaten Seattle early in the season, the Lions would be in the playoffs right now. Nobody expected for the Lions to be the type of team they were this year. Now, it may be a few people that probably thought that the Lions were going to have this type of season. I predicted the Lions at the beginning of the season would win anywhere between 6 to 9 games, and it came to fruition. That's what ended up happening. They ended up winning 9 games, overall going 9-8 on the season. Jared Goff was on fire. I got to give Jared Goff his props. There's nothing that I can say about what Jared Goff has been able to do with the Lions this season, especially getting a win in Green Bay, because that definitely doesn't happen with the Detroit Lions. So shout out to Jared Goff for playing phenomenal football this season with the Lions and shutting up a lot of the naysayers. Goff hasn't thrown an interception in 9 games. 9 straight games of Jared Goff not throwing an interception is phenomenal. The Lions go 8-2 in the last 10 games. Jamal Williams on today breaks Barry Sanders' single-season touchdown record and has 17 rushing touchdowns on the season. And not only did he do that, he eclipsed 1,000 yards. To be exact, 1,066 yards on the season for Jamal Williams, and he led the league with 17 touchdowns on the ground. Jamal Williams has already stated that he definitely wants to come back, and I think that the Lions will sign Jamal Williams back. If the price is right, Jamal Williams will be a Lion next season. He had a phenomenal season, and that type of thing, you reward those type of things to players when they play well. And Jamal, man, we didn't think that he was going to be the guy that would have over 1,000 yards. None of us thought that Jamal Williams would be the guy that be rushing over 1,000 yards. We thought it was going to be DeAndre Swift. Swift came into the season saying that he wanted to get 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards on the ground. And I knew that was going to be kind of difficult. I said that he could possibly get 1,000 on the ground, but maybe have like 400 or 500 receiving. I just did not see it because they are in a run by committee. So I did not think that he would be able to get the touches to be able to do it. So I knew that was going to be one of those goals that was going to be completely a stretch to be able to do it. But Jamal Williams, when DeAndre Swift got hurt and was banged up throughout the season, Jamal Williams picked up the load and he got the bulk of the carries and he handled his business. This is Jamal's best season in the NFL, and he's entering his prime. Right now, when you're around 27, 28 years old, you're entering into your prime years. And he had his best season in the NFL this season with the Detroit Lions. So phenomenal. Shout out to Jamal Williams for doing what he had to do and go out there and playing some smash mouth football and being able to tote that rock and being able to be the guy that we can depend on that was doable. And this is no knock to DeAndre Swift because he's a very talented guy. Swift is still one of those guys that can get into the end zone, still do great things with the ball in his hand. But Jamal Williams had a heck of a season, breaking Barry Sanders, the great Barry Sanders record. We're having 17 touchdowns in a single season on the ground. So shout out to Jamal Williams. He definitely earned his way to being able to get another contract. And you already know that Jamal Williams wants to be a Detroit Lion. Kerby Joseph, the growth of Kerby Joseph. There's been some times where Kerby Joseph didn't look like he knew what he was doing. And then there's been times like, man, this dude is a straight ball hawk. He is the next Glover Quinn on this team. No doubt in my mind, man, Kerby Joseph is a playmaker. And he's only going to get better. If Tracy Walker doesn't go down and Deshaun Elliott doesn't go down throughout the season, we probably don't even see Kerby Joseph this year. We probably see him on special teams, but we probably wouldn't have seen him being able to play safety. And now you know what you got with Kerby Joseph. Now you know a little bit what you got with Josh Pascal as he came back from his injury. When all the guys are healthy next season, and that's the biggest thing with the Lions, if everybody can stay healthy, the Lions ultimately are going to turn things around. The only thing that the Lions need to learn how to do is to rack up consecutive victories. Learning how to really get a 7 or 8, 9 game win streak going on like some of these other teams do. And when the Lions learn how to do that, man, I'm telling you, man, skies is going to be the limit because Detroit, you're not going to be able to hold this team back. The talent is on the team. They have everything that you want. They got a run game. The only thing the Detroit Lions are missing is a superior defense. That is the only thing. The only thing that the Detroit Lions are missing is a defense. And I think that once the Detroit Lions get a defense this season coming up, a lot of teams are going to know that we're for real. Jameson Williams, you saw the flashes with him this season. You saw what Jameson Williams was able to do. I think that the Lions are headed in the right direction. The future is bright. I'm loving everything that they're doing. And now they got to go find the missing pieces and go get some premium talent in the draft this season. Go get the guys that's going to be able to change this franchise. And I think that Brad Holmes has done a phenomenal job with drafting. I think that Brad Holmes definitely has done because at sometimes, some of the players were hurt. Yeah, they were. And you didn't know what to think as a fan. As a fan, you don't want guys being hurt and don't have the opportunity to play out on the field, and you can't really see what they bring to the table. But now we know what some of these guys bring to the table because they were able to get the experience. Now you know what Hutch can do, and he's only going to get better. Hutchinson had a phenomenal season. 3 interceptions, 9.5 sacks, close to 10 sacks on the season. Phenomenal. Then you know what James Houston brings to the table for the Lions. James Houston, nobody knew that he was this good at being able to get to the quarterback, being able to get in the backfield and cause havoc, being disruptive. That's what we need. Now they need a defensive tackle that can get that push consistently up the middle. Now you need those linebackers that can play alongside of a Malcolm Rodriguez. I think that Brad Holmes is going to do his homework. I think that he's going to be smart about this draft because he knows this draft in 2023 is going to be very pivotal for the Lions to be able to go out and get blue chip talent. Once the Detroit Lions get this blue chip talent on the team and you see this team take off, you're going to be like, wow. So I'm definitely excited about the season that's coming up next year. I can't wait to see what Brad Holmes is going to do in the draft because everything is going to be on what Brad Holmes does in the draft. And yeah, he can pick up a few free agents as well that will be able to help this team out. A couple of veterans on the defensive side of the ball as well. But it's going to be the draft is where he's going to get his bread and butter at. Getting young and having the youth movement on the team is what we need. We need younger guys to come in here and ball out. We need guys to make an impact right away. That's what we need in Detroit. And I think that ultimately at the end of the day, you as a fan know this is what we need. We need guys that's going to come in no matter if you're a defensive tackle, no matter if you're a guard, no matter if you're a corner, safety, linebacker. We need guys that's going to help us right away because we're trying to get to the Super Bowl. If the city of Detroit ever wins a Super Bowl, the city of Detroit is going to erupt because we've never had that opportunity to do it before. We've never been that far in the playoffs in a long time since Barry Sanders and them did it against the Washington Redskins at the time, who are now the Washington Commanders. So everything is looking good in Detroit. All the pieces are falling in place. And I really, really love everything that the Lions are doing. I can't wait to see what they're going to build off in the offseason. What type of players they're going to go out there in the draft. Are they willing to develop a backup quarterback, or will they just keep a guy like Nate Sudfeld or just get another backup quarterback out there to back up Jared Goff? Jared Goff has been phenomenal. I cannot diss Jared Goff. I cannot say anything bad about this man because he has outplayed how we thought that he was going to play. He's done everything that he's supposed to do as a quarterback, and that's be a game manager and not turn the ball over. You can't ask for much more out of Jared Goff for doing something like that. So it's been good, man. This has been a great season. Everything that I said the Lions are going to do, they pretty much was able to do it this season. and I'm happy for the direction of the team. And definitely, man, cheers to everybody that talk about the Detroit Lions and show their gratitude and love for the Lions, because we know as fans how hard it's been to see this team win year in and year out. It's been hard, man. And for us to have a winning season this year and to go into 2023 with skies being the limit, I can't wait, man. All right, you guys, make sure you subscribe to Raw Detroit, and I'll be back to you soon with more content. I'm out of here. Until next time, peace.